Behind a modest storefront at 34 Via di Santa Chiara, just a short walk from the Pantheon in Rome, sits one of the most secretive workshops in the world. It doesn't make weapons, it doesn't forge documents, it makes clothes. For over 225 years, Gammarelli has dressed every pope, and the rules governing how those clothes are made are far stranger than you'd expect. The House of Gammarelli has been the official tailor to the Pope since 1798, when Giovanni Antonio Gammarelli founded the business and began a tradition that would span 6 generations, 8 popes, and more than 2 centuries of papal fashion. Pope Pius XI was the first pontiff served exclusively by the shop, cementing Gammarelli as the definitive name in Vatican tailoring. Today, as of this writing, the shop is led by Alicia Gammarelli, the family's first female proprietor, but the rules she follows are the same ones her ancestors followed, and they start with a problem that no other tailor on earth has to solve. The first rule is what you might call the mystery size mandate. Here is the dilemma. When a pope dies or resigns, the Catholic Church needs a new one. Cardinals gather in the Sistine Chapel for the conclave, and behind those sealed doors, they vote. Nobody outside knows who will emerge as the next leader of 1.3 billion Catholics. Not the press, not the diplomats, and certainly not the tailors. But the tailors still have to have his outfit ready. The solution? Gammarelli prepares 3 white wool cassocks before every conclave. 1 small, 1 medium, 1 large, and they pray he is not an extra large. As Raniero Mancinelli, an 86-year-old rival papal tailor who has been stitching vestments for over 70 years, put it to CBS News, tres size, small, medium, large. You do not know if the next pope is going to be small, medium, or large. And here is the clever part. The tailors are sizing for girth, not height. When the new pope steps out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, nobody in that crowd is going to notice if his cassock runs a little long. But if it will not button around his midsection, that is a different story entirely. As the Gammarelli family has said, later, the right size will be made. That first appearance is about getting close enough. Sometimes, though, they do not get close enough. In 1958, the portly Angelo Roncalli was elected Pope John XXIII. Gammarelli had actually made one of the 3 cassocks to his exact measurements because he was a likely candidate. But in the chaos of the moment, aides grabbed the wrong cassock. It did not fit, so they cut open the back and held it together with safety pins. Pope John XXIII appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's with safety pins running down his spine. When he caught sight of himself in the mirror, he reportedly said, with a rueful look, "This man will be a disaster on television." After that incident, the Gammarelli family started labeling each cassock with the name of the most likely candidate. Lesson learned. It was also Gammarelli who later revived the Camorro, the distinctive Renaissance-era red velvet winter cap trimmed in ermine, for Pope John XXIII, a piece they would bring back again for Pope Benedict the 16th centuries later. The second rule is absolute secrecy, and that means never revealing prices or predictions. In keeping with the secrecy of the conclave itself, Gammarelli never discloses what they charge the Vatican, ever. But the secrecy runs deeper than pricing, because in order to prepare those 3 cassocks, the tailors have to make educated guesses about who the next pope will be. They study their existing client files, since many cardinals already shop at Gammarelli. They pull measurements, compare notes, and for cardinals who haven't visited in a while, they actually scour the internet, studying recent photographs to judge whether a clergyman has gained or lost a few kilograms since his last fitting. Lorenzo Gammarelli, the current generation tailor, has explained the process. We consider who, in our opinion, could be elected. We pull out their measurements and we make 3 cassocks that would more or less fit all of them. That means Gammarelli often carries a sharper sense of who might become pope than most Vatican journalists. And those journalists know it. During every conclave, reporters have descended on the little shop near the Pantheon, fishing for leads. The family has never given one. It's worth noting that Gammarelli isn't the only name in this world. During the papacy of Benedict XVI, the Vatican tailor Euroclero also supplied vestments, offering an alternative aesthetic rooted in more classical pre-conciliar style. The two shops represent different philosophical threads in the broader Vatican tailoring cluster. Gammarelli the institution, Euroclero the traditionalist challenger. Mancinelli once told a story about seeing two cardinals sporting new red cassocks. He said to them, "Your Eminence, what if you then become Pope?" They replied, "But no, there's no risk." He claims he doesn't remember who they were, but maybe, like any good craftsman, he's simply a keeper of secrets. The third rule is that every stitch must be handmade using sacred materials. 6 generations of Gammarelli tailors have carried on the same craft in the same atelier, refusing the shortcuts of mechanization. Everything, down to the buttonholes, continues to be made by hand. The fabrics are woven exclusively for the workshop, chosen with what the family describes as the theological meaning of the liturgy in mind. Along the walls of the shop, floor-to-ceiling shelves hold bolts of cotton and silk in rich reds and purples, ornate brocades shot through with metallic threads, nearly all of it produced in Italy, 90% Italian to be precise. Symbolism is stitched into every detail. The white papal cassock has exactly 33 buttons running down the front. Not 32, not 34, but 33, representing Christ's 33 years of life on earth. The white color itself dates to the 13th century, when several Dominican friars were elected pope and chose to keep wearing the white of their order. The cassock is made primarily of wool, symbolizing the innocence, holiness, and charity of the papal role. And beyond the cassock, Gammarelli also prepares the pallium, the narrow band of white wool worn over the chasuble that signifies the pope's supreme episcopal authority. It is one of the oldest vestments in the church's wardrobe, and every thread of it carries weight. The fourth rule concerns where the garments must be delivered, and that place is the Room of Tears. Hidden within the Sistine Chapel complex is a small antechamber known as the Stanza delle Lacrime, named for the newly elected popes who have wept inside it. This tiny room is where the transformation happens. Minutes after the announcement of Habemus Papam, managed in the interim by the Camerlengo, the cardinal who governs the Holy See during the sede vacante period between popes, the newly elected pontiff enters this room and changes out of his cardinal's red and into papal white for the very first time. The 3 Gammarelli cassocks are laid out waiting for him, along with 7 stacked white shoe boxes containing various sizes of papal shoes. The new pope selects a cassock, puts on a rochet, a red mozzetta, a gold pectoral cross, an embroidered stole, and a white zucchetto. He walks in as a cardinal, he walks out as the pope. And speaking of that zucchetto, there is a wonderful tradition worth knowing. If you buy a white zucchetto from Gammarelli, which costs about 80 euros, and you hold it up during a papal audience, the Swiss Guards, the Vatican's 500-year-old military corps in their distinctive Renaissance uniforms, will swap yours for the one the Pope is actually wearing. The tradition dates back to Pope Pius XII. It is essentially a papal souvenir program. This moment of transition is also when the fisherman's ring, the papal signet ring engraved with the image of St. Peter casting his nets, is placed on the new pope's finger. It is one of the most recognizable symbols of the papacy, and when a pope dies, the Camerlengo is responsible for defacing or destroying it, ensuring no one can use it to forge papal documents during the vacancy. The tailors prepare the vestments. The ring completes the picture. The fifth rule is about extreme care with white, because the Pope's vestments stain easily, and this governs every moment of the tailoring process. As Mancinelli has said, with the Pope, there's more care needed. The white cassock is especially delicate. Every tailor who handles papal garments must account for the fact that white fabric shows everything. Every fingerprint, every smudge, every drop of coffee or communion wine. The tailors supervise the making of each piece the Pope will wear, accounting for the particular solemnity of the occasion, the liturgical colors, the date of use, and even the spiritual intention behind each garment. Nothing is left to chance. Different popes make this job easier or harder. Pope Francis was easily satisfied. He never made particular requests and didn't mind if a vestment ran a little large. He even refused when his tailor tried to persuade him to wear white trousers instead of his black priestly slacks, which were often visible beneath his cassock in bright sunlight. He told the tailor he was fine with the way it was, a small act of stubbornness that was really a statement about humility. So the next time you see the Pope step onto that balcony in white, remember what's behind that seemingly simple outfit. 2 centuries of tradition, a guessing game played in absolute secrecy, 33 hand-sewn buttons, a pallium woven in ancient wool, a fisherman's ring placed by the Camerlengo, a room named for tears, and tailors who treat every thread as sacred. The Vatican guards its secrets carefully, but some of the most fascinating ones aren't locked in the archives. They're stitched into the seams.